When somebody discriminates another, I don't think that they do that intentionally because they want to hurt another person. I think it comes with everything that society has fed them, be it by skin color, be it by size, any type of gender, any type of discrimination comes from a place of fear, number one. Because you don't know what the other is, and everyone's scared of the unknown, right? And number two, I think it comes out of jealousy. There's almost a level of, oh, I don't have that, so what must it be like to have that? Oh, why are they so outspoken? Maybe I should be outspoken. Or no, they're wrong for being outspoken, let's say. Everyone wants to find the good in themselves, and that's why they look for the negative in others. I actually was born in Kathmandu, Nepal, but I was only 2 months old when my parents moved me to China because that's where they grew up. My parents went to university in China, and then I got the opportunity to go to primary school and middle school and a little bit of high school in China. And then I moved here because I got into UBC. Once I got into UBC, I started studying economics. I was in the Faculty of Arts, and then I started studying some poli-sci as well. With Nepalese heritage, growing up in a Hindu Buddhist family, although I identify as an atheist, it's been a really interesting, multifaceted, multicultural environment that I grew up in. My immediate family actually moved from Nepal because they wanted to be in a more progressive setting, because the culture in Nepal can be a bit heavily patriarchal. And unfortunately, because of that type of society, I was still very influenced by that. Although I will say that living in a very patriarchal community, I personally had a very privileged life because my parents were very progressive. Although there were times where I would see them feel maybe a little bit guilty because we may have left our traditions, they were still very logical because they left the traditions that discriminated against, let's say, gender or sexuality, discrimination of any sort for that matter. They always treated their kids equally. But whenever I would get the opportunity to visit Nepal, there were always times where I was shut up or shut down for that matter, like silenced by adults because of the patriarchal and hierarchical community that it was, where children were meant to just obey their parents and not really question anything. My parents raised me to be very opinionated, to have my own mind, to be able to speak my own mind. Being a very opinionated lady in the family, the extended family that I belonged in, I was always an outlier. I was always the abnormal one, or the one that was always told, you're not going to find anyone, you're never going to find love because men don't like women like you, or you're too tall, you're too thick. I was really fat shamed because I've always been a chubbier girl. I have hated myself for the longest time, and not hated myself as in my personality. I have a lot of respect for myself, for the person that I am, for the goals that I've tried to achieve, for the goals that I've set for myself academically. But my self-hate stems from all of the hate that I got for my body, all the fat shaming, the fact that I have scars on my body. I was a burn victim, actually. At 8.5, my entire left side of my body was burned by hot boiling milk, and I was hospitalized, and that has left some scars. What I can say is that I'm thankful that I didn't get anything on my face. And because of those scars, because of my skin color, because of my size, I have had multiple different discriminatory comments that was passed, like, you won't ever find a husband that'll love you because you're fat, or you should lose weight, you should learn how to cook, you're very unconventional, that's not okay, you're too passionate, you're too loud, you're not ladylike. These were comments that were passed at me almost on the daily. So self-love for me, I think, has just been to accept my body for the way it looks. You know, the first step was for me to stop using fairness products. I always used fairness products. There was this fairness product called Fair and Lovely. In South Asian community, a lot of women use that to basically get lighter skin tone. And I stopped using that because I was like, I am going to embrace my color. You know, I like my color now. So what if I'm a little darker than the rest of the folks around me, you know? It doesn't define who I am, you know, it doesn't say anything about what my character is. But because of the brother that I have and the parents that I have who always pushed me and like taught me to strive for the best and not really focus on what my outer beauty is, or not focus on the superficial things or the materialistic things in life, and to really focus on building your intelligence. So I think all of the adversities that you generally face in life only make you resilient, and that resilience is what that made me proud of myself and helped me accept my physical scars and my mental scars and just my character itself. Everyone looks at body positivity or self-love as, oh, don't fat shame, oh, don't skinny shame, oh, don't talk about size, oh, don't talk about color. No one talks about feeling at home in your own body. You know, no one talks about just having body autonomy. Body positivity doesn't have to do with it doesn't have to do with just size, or it doesn't have to do with just color. There's so many different things to it. It's just about treating your body the way you want to treat your body, and just having that right. You know, if I want to get an abortion, I want to get an abortion. If I want to put tattoos on my body, I want to put tattoos on my body. If I want to color my hair green, I want to color my hair green. If I want to be a size 10, I will be a size 10. If I want to cut weight and be a size 2, I'll do that. That is up to me. Why is my body a discussion for you? So I feel like body positivity, being able to feel at home in your own body, is so important. And because I didn't feel that for a very big chunk of my life, just because I wasn't able to accept the fact that, oh, I'm fat, or people call me fat, or oh, I'm too tall for a girl, or oh, maybe I don't look too feminine. These are the things that people kept feeding me. Now I know to say, so what? So what if I'm too big? Relative to who? What do you mean by fat? Who am I relative to larger, you know? So once I started learning how to say, so what, I think things really changed for me. Having grown up in the community and society that I was growing up in, one thing that I always was in awe of was the West. And that's something that a lot of the folks from where I'm from think about, you know, oh, the West is this, the West is that. Little do we know that a lot of things goes on around in the West too. It's not this paradise, you know. There are problems everywhere in the world. But there was one thing about Canada that really, really attracted me, and that was the fact that it's a very political thing. It's a country that openly, with open arms, accepts immigration. So I really appreciate how welcoming this place has been. And to be able to call it home in a short period of time, that was something really big for me, because in Nepal, I never felt like I was at home, because everyone questioned me. Everyone said, oh, she's Chinese anyway, she lives in China, we don't accept her, she doesn't speak Nepali like we do, even though I'm fluent and native. She doesn't know what it's like being Nepali. And I always thought that was unfair, and I never felt at home. In China, I look different, so everyone, you know, looked at me as a foreigner. I was always looked at as the outsider. And as much as I felt at home in both Nepal and China, it was never really my home. It was just my home because, one, I was born there, I have that skin color, let's say, and the other was because I lived a majority of my lifetime there. But I was still always called a 外国人, which is a foreigner. And again, I speak Mandarin fluently as a native, yet I was always looked at as a 外国人. And when I moved to Vancouver, first of all, when I landed here, it was so easy to breathe, because in Beijing, the pollution really gets to you. So my first instinct was, oh wow, I can actually breathe here. There's fresh air. And then the open arms, everyone was so welcoming. No one questioned me. No one asked me where I was from. They just assumed I was from here. I felt like I was finally at home. Within the first 3 to 4 months, I was like, this is my place. This is where I want to live for the rest of my life. Canada just felt like it hugged me. So the idea of menstruation is undignified in the community that I belong to in Nepal. Because of religion, culture, tradition, women have been banned from going to temples, entering their own kitchens, sometimes even staying in their own homes. There's a tradition that still happens in Western Nepal called chopadi, and that tradition is basically sending the women of the family whenever they bleed to a cowshed or a menstrual hut, as they call it right now in modern times, which is away from the home, and they basically have to live in there. And that is basically endangering their lives. It's very unsanitary. It's not hygienic at all. And it's very unsafe in terms of your mental health as well, because you're staying all alone. You're already in a lot of pain, and your body's going through so much with your period, and you're lonely on top of that. And all because of a natural bodily function that you had really no choice over. Now, I didn't have to deal with that, thankfully. I had very progressive parents. But like I said, although progressive, there was still some level of guilt. So my first time when I got my period, actually, I was not allowed to enter the temple. I was not allowed to enter the kitchen because it's a tradition that has been passed down. But what bothered me was this tradition went on until I was 19. And that didn't make sense to me when I grew up and I really started studying religion. And when I studied religion, I actually became an atheist because I didn't agree with a lot of the different things in the religion. And I respect people's belief in God, but it didn't resonate with me because the religion that I was born into was so patriarchal that it almost seemed unjust to believe in something like that. And the whole idea of not being able to accept a woman's body for the functions that it has. Your menstrual cycle is such a beautiful function, like women, I feel like our bodies were blessed. We're miracles, we make babies, for goodness sake. We host a whole other life inside of us, and that's being discriminated against, being called dirty. So I am working with a foundation, the Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation. I'm going to be an advocate for dignified menstruation. When the tampon tax got removed here was when I actually started being a lot more vocal about menstruation, because I realized that I belong to now a country where I don't have to treat tampons as a luxury item, and I want to be able to influence the rest of the world that way too. There are so many countries in the world that still tax tampons, or like still have the tampon tax, or the pink tax as they call it, whereby menstrual products are all categorized as luxury items. So it's very funny that menstruation is not a choice, but it's been treated as a choice by the rest of the world, even when I go to work now, I can't say to my coworkers that I'm on my period, hence I'm calling in sick. I have to make some other story up. Menstruation may not be discriminated in Canada, but it's still a taboo to talk about it. There's still this discomfort to talk about it publicly, whereas it should be something that's talked about as much as possible. Everyone should be educated about it, boys and girls. And when I was given sex ed in school, we were put into different rooms, boys and girls. It's not just a Canada or just a Nepal problem, it's a world problem. Everyone treats menstruation as a hush-hush topic. And part of it is also advertising. When you think about it, Tampax and all these different Stay Free, Always, these brands, pad brands, their advertisements always talk about leak proof, discharge, using negative connotation words. Why don't we use words like vaginal fluid instead of discharge? right? So why is it that everything related to a woman's internal working have such negative words to them? You know, they don't have any positive ways of describing it, and that's why women grow up, and especially very insecure, I feel, very with very low self-esteem. I have a lot of confidence, but why is it that before saying, oh, you know, I got my period and I'm suffering today, I really just need to sleep, I have to go to work, take painkillers, be in pain, and justify being a woman? There's just that communication aspect that dignified menstruation talks about. And that's why I think that it's important to Canada as well, because Canada may be a very progressive country, but we still have a lot to learn, and we still have, I think, a lot to progress on.